Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is the year of the horse Decoded. Keeping up with our tradition every year, adding to the Chinese Lunar New Year series. And here we are, 2026. And I have a very powerful presentation to share with you all. So make sure to get a pen and paper, take some notes. Thank me later. This is going to be packed with gems, and I want to get straight into it. But before we get started, just a quick disclaimer. This content is not financial advice. Waters Above is not a financial advisor. This content is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research and use any materials in this content as entertainment and not financial, investment, gambling, tax, health, or legal advice. So we're going to start with the dates. We are in the year of the fire horse from February 17th, 2026 until February 5th, 2027. So that's what we'll be focusing our decode on today. And for the majority of this fire horse year, we'll be in the Gregorian year of 2026. And usually the way that everyone would write out this year is in a shortened form, and we would just say 26. So exoterically, what the populace uses would be calling this year the 26 year. Therefore, that will be a key number for us, but we will continue to use the rules of numerology and reduce. So we have 26 gets reduced to 8. 2 plus 6 equals 8. And for those of you that are new to numerology, effectively, whenever we see a 0, we would not include the 0. And then any number over 9, we would reduce. So 1 through 9 are fair game. Anything over 9 gets reduced. And a good example would be the Gregorian year of 2026. 2 plus 2 plus 6 becomes 10. But because that's over the number 9, we would reduce that to 1. So there are some exceptions to the rule. For example, 11, 22, and 33. Those are master numbers, so we would not reduce them. But because, for example, we have 26, that gets reduced to 8. And for this year, 2026, that reduces to the 1. And what you're seeing below here is a very awesome sneak peek of this esoteric numerology blueprint that I have that's covering all of the numbers 1 through 9, as well as 11, 22, and 33. And this will be part of the launch of my new platform soon. So those of you that were in Waters Above University back last year, you know about this, but this is powerful stuff. And I wanted to share a little sneak peek with you here, covering this year and its essence of the 1. So the 1 represents unity, represents energy, as well as individualism and the lone wolf, which I believe I resonate a lot with this lone wolf concept. I don't know about you, but the 1 thrives alone, yet always seeks the opposite polarity to create. You are the 1, the magician. So choose balance over the dark or light, and you'll be truly leading others and not dominating them with your essence. That's key. A lone wolf always is destined to find its wolf pack, and you unlock your highest potential from allowing your opposite polarity to be your guide and give them a chance to show you where you have room to improve. So that is the essence of this year here in 2026. Now, we will also consider the Hebrew year, Rosh Hashanah, which will be on September 11th through September 13th this year. And that is very important. The fact that it lands on September 11th this year, you're all well aware of this important date, and we will definitely talk about it more later. But from now until then, we're in the Hebrew year of 5,786, and utilizing numerology, 5 plus 7 plus 8 plus 6 becomes 26, again reduced to 8. So similar to last year, these 2 years synchronize, and that's very important because that means this 26 and 8 energy is crucial for this year. And this year, the Chinese Lunar New Year landed on an annular solar eclipse, followed by a very powerful total lunar eclipse on March 3rd, which is coming up very soon for those that are watching this shortly after its release. Those of you that are watching this in the future after March 3rd, you'll completely understand why that time frame was so powerful once you're done watching this presentation. Then later this year, we have one more eclipse season, starting on August 12th with a total solar eclipse, and then followed by a partial lunar eclipse in late August. This is very important to know. The total lunar eclipse on March 3rd, 2026 will be the last full total lunar eclipse until New Year's Day in 2029, going from December 31st, 2028, so New Year's Eve, until January 1st, 2029 to be specific. And that is crucial to know because that's quite a while without any full total lunar eclipses after the one that will be on March 3rd. We will have 5 full total solar eclipses in that time frame after March 3rd, starting the count with the August 12th total solar eclipse that we brought up a moment ago. So that would be the eclipse season later in this year. This means that from September 2026, we're going to experience an extended time frame without lunar cycle energy. Note, it's during lunar cycles where we see the worst performance specifically for cryptocurrency prices. Note, if you are watching this decode close to its release in the month of February or March 2026, and if you're watching it right now, since we're still technically in a lunar cycle until March 3rd, 2026, then now you understand why the crypto market specifically is performing the way that it is compared to, for example, the stock market or precious metals. This is a bit of a warning regarding the March 3rd, 2026 total lunar eclipse because it will be the Purim eclipse. The Jewish holiday Purim begins on sundown March 2nd and it ends at nightfall on March 3rd. The 3-3 date, 33. As I said earlier, there are some numbers in numerology which we do not reduce. 11, 22, and 33, the master numbers. This is one of them, so that's very important. Now, for those who aren't aware, Purim means casting lots or drawing straws, similar to like the saying rolling the dice. This holiday commemorates the saving of the Jewish people from a plot to exterminate them in ancient Persia, as recorded in the biblical book of Esther. Essentially, and I hope this doesn't offend anyone, and this is not meant to offend, but Purim is Jewish Halloween. They dress up in costumes, there's a heavy focus on giving and receiving sweets and treats, and they both involve a carnival atmosphere with public parades. This is what it's become, at least. And the fact Purim lands on this particular eclipse, I'd expect these themes to influence whatever goes down on the world stage symbolically during the days around this lunar eclipse, just like it did last year into March 14th in 2025, when Purim landed on a total lunar eclipse that started our lunar cycle. And in the weeks leading up to Donald Trump's Liberation Day, which was on April 2nd, that was that energy that we were dealing with. When the entire market was put through a ritual with tariffs as the talk of the town, I called it World War Tariff. And that was pretty much all throughout that specific eclipse season and Purim. And since we'll be leaving the lunar cycle energy fully in Q3 2026, then it's likely we'll be seeing a macro bottoming structure forming for the crypto market in accordance with the eclipse seasons here in 2026. Simply put, 2026 equals a bottoming year for crypto, and bottoming means the lowest prices, the best discounts, optimal buying opportunities, etc. Which means simultaneously 2026 will be the scariest market for crypto investors, the most fear, sentiment, etc. Note, there's 10,000 or 20,000 or more altcoins, and 99% of them are absolutely useless. So, of course, not every single project will bottom in 2026. These statements apply to the overall asset class, and many alts, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, will fail in 2026, but this is good for the space. I say good riddance to the nonsense. I'm sure many of you agree. This is very important to note regarding 2026, as it's likely that we'll see a notable relief rally specifically for the crypto market tied to eclipse seasons. And we'll break this down thoroughly later in this presentation, but for now I wanted to mention this key insight as early as possible so that you have pure value right from the start of this decode. Now let's explore the symbolism of the horse like we did last year with the Year of the Snake, utilizing mythology, astrology, and the esoterica, and then we'll return back to decoding the dates a little bit later. This is a very important part of the decode, and lots of the information we might get into could be brand new to you, so definitely make sure to take notes regarding the symbolism because, as they say, symbolism is their downfall. And although the last image you saw was the statue of Oceanus within the Trevi Fountain in Rome, Italy, Oceanus is often mixed up with Neptune or Poseidon. I'll just say Neptune for the rest of today's decode because they're one and the same. It's Greco-Roman mythology. And in many ways, regarding Oceanus and Neptune, Poseidon, these figures are synonymous. And the reason I want to start here is because the Greco-Roman mythology states that Neptune created the horse. And we're here at the Year of the Horse. There's two common creation stories regarding this. We have the creation of the horse by striking the earth with his trident. You all know about the trident symbolism. This is actually tied back to the symbol of the euro. Anybody over there in Europe, just use your imagination. And the more poetic version of this story was impressing Demeter by sculpting the first horse from sea foam. Essentially, Poseidon, Neptune, was known as the father of horses. And this mythology explains how the horse is a creature of raw elemental power, not just land. And since we're bringing up the term elemental, it's crucial to consider the elemental sign that we're in the Chinese zodiac system this year in 2026, which is fire. This is the year of the fire horse, and that represents intensity, rebellion, fame or celebrity, or being seen is another way to put that, and as well as volatility. And since Neptune is the god of the sea, as well as earthquakes and horses, this means we're working with both fire and water symbolism. And what that means is you must see the symbols and how they work together, kind of like a recipe. Water over fire means boiled water. This is the alchemy of distillation, which means separating the soul or spirit from the physical body. This is the symbol of the age that we're in. Some call it Pisces. And this is the symbol of the age that we're living in. And now you know why they use it. Their agenda is to remove spirituality from man and replace it with an AI god, which is transhumanism. I know that might sound too good to be true to a lot of people, and a lot of people might be overly optimistic about this, and what I'm gonna be going through in today's presentation is not to make you defeatist or to look at the future in the way they want us to look at the future. It's actually quite the opposite. This is going to be an insanely inspiring decode. Everything I did when creating this decode is to unlock something within you that inspires and motivates you to take this year and make it your best year, regardless of the plan that they have. So please, when you hear these things, know that I will be building off of them more. I will be explaining it much more thoroughly, and we're not attacking this with any division or picking any sides or looking at anything doom and gloom. That is not the case. So this philosophy that you heard me bring up a second ago, the alchemy of distillation, it's key because of the importance of this year's first eclipse season that starts on the Chinese Lunar New Year, the annular solar eclipse on February 17, 2026, followed by the total lunar eclipse on March 3rd, 2026. which gives you the sun, which is fire, and the moon, which is water, fully eclipsing each other back to back. Again, we were just talking about fire and water symbolism. So we have the sun representing fire, the moon representing water. This is big. Pay attention to the symbolism here. The moon is tied to emotions, ruled by the sign of Cancer, the cardinal water sign. And in tropical astrology, the sun will be in Pisces, the water sign, which is ruled by Neptune, during both of these eclipses. Again, Pisces is ruled by Neptune, the god of the sea, and Jupiter simultaneously the god of the sky, as above so below. This is why this flag looks this way. You have Jupiter above and below is Neptune. That, again, it's not to create division or to point fingers. I'm just letting you know that this is a symbol of the age that we're in right now. Note, the sun will be in Aquarius in sidereal astrology during both of these eclipses. And by the way, for those that are brand new to this idea of sidereal astrology, it's just tracking where the sun is in the actual sky. And there's ways to do this. Of course, if you're an actual astronomer, you would have a telescope and you'd look at it for yourself. And that's a very difficult skill to acquire. So another thing that most people do, again, in the digital age, is they would have something like Stellarium, some sort of software program that could allow them to see where the actual sun is in the actual sky. And that is what we would call sidereal astrology, also synonymous in many ways with Vedic astrology. But to simplify things here today, the sun will be in Aquarius in the actual sky during both of these eclipses. And even though Aquarius is an air sign, Aquarius is the water bearer, tied to water symbolism, which, if you'd like to know more about, it's symbolic of pouring out the knowledge to get through the season before the true last month in the system, which is March. Now, that's again the start. The true last month is moving away from February, Februus, into March. And this is such a corrupted system that it would require its own separate decode, but bear with me here and let's make it perhaps simple by saying the sign of Pisces is the reset of this calendrical system, of this cycle. Therefore, the energy reset of a year is the vernal equinox. And in Australia or New Zealand, it would be September around Virgo. It's just the opposite sign. Now, we are leaving, allegedly, the age of Pisces, and we're going to be moving into the age of Aquarius. And my truth is that we're not in Aquarius yet. We're actually in the transition phase between the ages as we speak. And as for when we will fully leave that time frame, I don't think it's as important to know the year as much as it is to know how it will feel, how it will look, and how life will be like. And this that I'm about to get into right now will teach you how you'll know when we're fully in that age. So this is the gnosis you need to be aware of. The symbols of the old age are destroyed when entering the new age, or you just can't have those symbols at all. So an example would be during the transition from the age of Taurus into the age of Aries. So Taurus is the bull, Aries is the ram. In that transition, anyone who was still worshiping the golden calf, which is the bull or Taurus, was sacrificed. And from that point on, no one was allowed to carry the symbol of the golden calf until later on in the age of Pisces. But that's just a side note. Instead, everyone was forced to worship the ram, the symbol of Aries, the god of war. And we're close to that moment now where the symbols of the age of Pisces are slowly being destroyed to bring in the symbols of Aquarius. And since Neptune rules Pisces, this is precisely why you're going to continue to see an abundance of water and ocean symbolism over the next couple of years before they're fully destroyed. Think of it like it's like a climax before the end. And 2030 will be the climax of this transition phase, in my opinion, based off of all the decoding I've been doing. And this decode's going to actually forecast out up until then, give you a little bit of a sneak peek of the next 2 to 3 years ahead, because I'm bringing this up and I can't gatekeep knowledge. And once I have it and I know it, I need to share it. And that's what we're going to do here today. So since Neptune, the god of the sea, created horses, that makes this year of the horse one of the most significant years in this transition away from Pisces, whom he rules over, into the age of Aquarius. And I believe the events that happen around the eclipses this year will reveal everything for the years to come. And what you're seeing right here is eclipse symbolism and sea symbolism. As I told you, as above, so below, Jupiter above, Neptune below. The waters above, waters below. Even though Neptune is tied to the waters below, Jupiter is not tied to the waters above. That would be Uranus, but that's a little deep for now. Let's stick to this symbol in the center. That is eclipse symbolism. And as you're already aware, Neptune is the god of the sea. We're going to throw in an additional element really quickly here just to kind of satiate the sports fans. And right before this year of the horse, the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. And the only other Super Bowl they won before this year was on February 2nd, 2014, during the last year of the horse. And guess who they beat? The Denver Broncos, the horse team. Can't make this up. And for those American football fans who are watching this decode, consider that the Denver Broncos have fire horse symbolism. You could see it right there. So this upcoming 2026 NFL season will likely be another really good year for the Broncos. And I'm not saying they'll win the Super Bowl this year, but it will probably be a very good year. Or actually, if you were to dive even deeper into this, I'm not personally a sports decoder, but as any professional sports decoders out there, when you start to make these connections, you could look at them as extremes when you have symbolism tied together. And that could be worth noting, that we've had sometimes in a direct symbolic connection, it's the worst outcome or something really unfortunate happens. So that's just something worth bringing up as a decoder. You don't just make a connection and then you immediately assume it must be positive. Okay? I think that's important. Again, the point of today's decode is not a 2026 NFL season decode. It is a year of the horse decode, but I wanted to bring this up because I felt it could be important for those that are interested in utilizing this decoding system to start decoding things that interest you. So, as this recent year of the snake was a very good year for the Broncos, and they almost made it to the Super Bowl, could be the case in the year ahead. But also keep in mind that last Super Bowl the Broncos won was tied to the year of the GOAT, which is next year, starting on February 6th, 2027. So that's important to note as well. Also, I quickly looked into that team, and they don't have much of a clear pattern. I believe all three of their Super Bowl wins were in different Chinese years, and that is rare. It's actually quite normal to see repeating patterns with this Chinese zodiac system, hence why I love it so much, hence why I utilize it. So, if you're wondering what this strange blue horse creature is to the right of the screen and on the cover of this decode, it's called Lucifer, funny enough, and it's officially named Blue Mustang. It's a sculpture, I believe, made of fiberglass, and it's located at the Denver International Airport. And what's wild to know about this is during its construction, a section of this statue fell on the sculptor and killed him. It's like bad omen vibes. So if this wasn't weird enough for you, then you need to know that it was officially installed at the Denver airport in 2008, the year of the great financial crisis, which was a Shemitah year. And we're going to get into the Shemitah a little bit later, especially for those who are new to that word. It's very important to know. And then we have that being the year of the rat, and C19 was also a rat year. Keep that in mind. And the Denver Broncos' first NFL season, so when they officially started playing in the NFL with the real games, was a rat year. So this gives you some tools to work with if you're a sports decoder. Overall, the symbolism for the Broncos is pretty clear this year, will be significant for them here in 2026. So here we have it, the Eye of Horus. We have both Snake Year Super Bowl winners last year, excuse me, were birds. And Horus is depicted as a falcon headed man. You could see right here, Eagles won prior year. This year, the Seahawks, Eye of Horus, clear symbolism, birds. Now, why? Well, the Eye of Horus ties back, of course, to Horus. You could see it over here, riding the horse. Horus is horse. Fun fact, horses actually have the largest eyes of any land mammal. Just fascinating. And in Egyptian mythology, Horus was the sky god. His two eyes represented the sun and the moon. Again, we're coming back to eclipse symbolism. So together, the sun and the moon, eclipse. And when the sun and the moon fall into eclipse for each other, they form a ring. They get married. This is Mary. This is Mare. The C in Latin is Mare. And an adult female horse is a mare. So we have Mare tied to C and mare tied to horse. It's all in the word spells. We have Mary, which is the sun and the moon eclipsing each other as the ritual. We have Mars, which is fire, symbolism, and war. And then we have March tied to Neptune with Pisces and water symbolism. So this is why March is so important this year in 2026. The symbolism to get into that's very fascinating here is that March is associated with the color green, tied to specifically St. Patrick's Day, which is on March 17th. And this is wild. St. Patrick is famous for banishing snakes out of Ireland. So this can be particularly symbolic for this year, representing moving away from the year of the snake, which we just left recently. And then we have some more symbols, such as the four-leaf clover tied to luck. This could be important because I do believe we're going to have more talk of speculating this year, whether that be in things like crypto or poly market or whatever is new to come with AI, but just consider that. There's also some other additional symbolism, such as leprechauns and their whole pot of gold at the end of the rainbow idea, and that again brings back gold into the equation, and we know how gold has been trading over the past 3 to 4 months. It was in euphoria, and typically once precious metals euphoria ends, we have a bit of a correction. It puts some pressure on the entire market, but then eventually those trillions of dollars of market cap have to go somewhere else. And because we have this luck idea and all of this connection back to green and gold, it's making me feel that that will also be tied back to themes of speculating, trading, greed, gambling, tied to luck. So be careful with those themes in your life this year, and also be conscious of the fact that those are themes that will rule this year, because that means that the powers that be are going to do everything they can to get you to speculate in the wrong way. So be cautious about that. It's also very good news, though, if you're somebody who's part of a community who's focused on this stuff, which of course is our expertise here. So a little bit more to break down regarding March is it's named after Mars, the god of war. And March is the month that kicked off the war season. Before Julius Caesar changed the calendar, March was considered the first month of the year. And I kind of brought that up a little bit earlier. Let's call it Pisces. March is associated with, or Mars is associated with fire, tied to Aries. This is the cardinal fire sign. And Mars is not the god of fire, by the way. That's Vulcan. So just keep your focus there. With mythology, it could get a little complicated. It was the reason why earlier I brought up the whole Oceanus thing at the Trevi Fountain, because a lot of people actually look at that as tourists and they think that's Neptune or Poseidon, and it isn't. So things can get a little strange with the symbolism, but a lot of the time things are more interconnected than they're not. And that's the point of bringing up some of these nuances. Now, you have some other significant dates that we will be breaking down a little bit more later, such as the Ides of March. This is the assassination of Julius Caesar on March 15th, and in sidereal astrology, coincidentally, The sun moves into Pisces on March 15th. So whenever I hear any stories of the past, they're usually make-believe, they're just mythology, and I believe that that's what this whole thing is symbolic of. It's not the real assassination of Julius Caesar, it is the sun, which Julius Caesar tried to embody with the JC character, and it's moving into that restart or the reset of energy for the year. Again, it was the first month and this guy's ego took it over. But getting back to this idea here of the Ides of March, we have the eve of Ides of March, which is exoterically called Pi Day, 314, March 14th. This year comes around full circle then. It works perfectly. And it's important, keep March 14th through March 17th on your radar this year for a significant event. So please mark that in your calendars. And as we go through today's decode more and more, you're going to understand why and the energy we could assume for that time frame. So this all ties into the concept of March and Pisces being the energy reset this year, along with the fact that March 3rd will be the last full total lunar eclipse until January 1st, 2029. Essentially, the snake year is shedding its skin. Green is associated with March and snakes, and green is also associated with nature, natural life, grass, leaves, trees, plants, etc. And now we're transitioning into the year of the fire horse, where all of that quote-unquote natural life will go through a test, as fire puts nature through those tests. And these tests will happen in many ways, notably with the way humans live, ultimately testing how humans work, earn, communicate, organize, and strategize. And what will disrupt the way humans live the most out of any other thing is artificial intelligence. It will be even more disruptive this year in 2026 than it was in 2025, 2024, and 2023 combined. And remember, ChatGPT was launched to the public in November of 2022. So this is very new for the public to be playing around with. And you could just see up until today how much of an advanced reality we've had from it and how much it's disrupted. So in many ways, 2026 will be the year of AI normalization. And remember what Trump said when he came into office again. He said that he'll make the US the crypto capital of the world and the artificial intelligence capital of the world. And I believe 2026 is the year where both of those things will become quite obvious. And without going to too many different directions, Coinbase, for example, is already behind some of this big stuff that's going to occur, like the tokenization of pretty much everything onto the blockchain. So that's the agenda, and we're going to talk about it a lot today. So don't just think of it purely as an AI thing. It's about a digitization of everything thing, and that's what this year will be about. So this horse year energy is actually perfect for the apex predator to focus on pulling this off. So if there's anything for you to take away from this decode, it's this. The horse symbolizes instinctual intelligence. So if you want to make progress this year in any aspect of your life, you must harness your intuition. Your intuition is your guide. And this is the year where the apex predator will do everything in their power to keep you from accessing your intuition. So don't let them get away with that. You are a conscious being, so maneuver consciously. What we'll cover throughout this decode will inspire you to tap into this essence here in 2026. And if you decide not to embrace your potential this year, then I at least want you to be aware that this year will not be forgiving to those who think they could get away with, quote, letting another year pass by, end quote. Because this whole AI disruption is just getting started, and this is the year where you either start putting in the effort to work on yourself and embrace your passion, or AI will unfortunately swiftly disrupt your reality. A is the first letter, I is the 9th letter, 1 and 9 becomes 10, 2026 is the same, 10 is the 1 and the 0, that is the binary code, the computer language, if you will. 10 is actually symbolic of the reset. And here's the wisdom that you can apply that relates to that, because it is not negative. First off, before we go there, if you feel nervous or unsettled by anything I just said regarding AI in 2026, please know that ultimately what this year represents is a massive opportunity for you. And I'm actually insanely excited about this. Just like fire is called the Great Purifier in Esoterica, consider this. Fire is symbolic of a reset as well. So this year is your opportunity to hit that reset button on your old patterns and move forward with a renewed and revitalized energy and a clearer vision. Set your intentions on what you will do rather than what you'll try to do. So this is the truth. 2026 is an opportunity. It's not an inconvenience. Tap into the energy of this year to reset and purify your intentions consciously, and continue to let your intuition guide you. Stay focused and stay honorable, because the energy of the Fire Horse year will unfortunately allow the apex predator to rapidly progress with their plan of guiding humanity towards the AI god. The apex predator's grand plan is to trick humanity into essentially falling for an AI god, literally, and 2026 will play a major role in how they attempt to accomplish this. Now, before we dive deeper into that, first let's address the top concern that comes to mind when thinking of this AI God concept. And of course, you've all heard of the biblical mark of the beast or this 666 code, but in order to have a truly powerful decode with actual utility, first we must refine our perception and decode this 666 code before going any further. So let's revisit this symbol. We have 6, 6, and 6. Take your time to count this and you'll be able to confirm this yourself. But 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18. And in Hebrew, the word for alive or living, that verb, is chai. And that equals 18 in Gematria. Also, apologies if I mispronounce anything in these other languages. They're not my language, so I apologize in advance. Now, the number 18 is spiritually significant in Judaism, and since the element carbon is 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons, and note, carbon-12 is the most common form of the common form constituting all known life, that means this is not a negative thing, all right? And that's kind of what I wanted to do before moving forward. So we're all carbon-based beings. And then this 666 code connects to being alive and living, which synchronizes perfectly, regardless of how anyone interprets the 666 code. So there's nothing inherently evil about this specific number. And at the end of the day, what's most important for me to mention now is no number can be evil. So this is a trick that the apex predator plays on us to label everything in duality with good and bad, evil versus good, rather than seeking the wisdom that is hidden within it, which is what we just did right there. This same trick is what they did with the number 13. So let's quickly break down that code so that you could see how this is all tied together and the importance of the number 13 for this year. And before we get into the number 13, we first need to mention that the number 6 is actually associated with the year of the snake, the year that we just left, making the year of the horse the 7th sign. So that is going to be one of our powerful numbers for this year, and you're going to find out why. So the 7th card in the tarot deck is the Chariot, which is pulled by 2 sphinxes or 2 horses, as you could see right here. And many other tarot decks show horses, just like Neptune's Chariot is pulled by horses. So in astrology, the Chariot is associated with the cardinal water sign of Cancer and its ruling planet, the moon, which we've mentioned earlier is significant since the March 3rd lunar eclipse will be the last full total lunar eclipse until New Year's 2029. And in a moment, you'll see how the moon is tied directly to this number 13. So we have this Friday the 13th here in 2026 3 times. How wild is that? And what this all is tied to is moving from the 6th sign into the seventh sign, the 6-7 code. 6 plus 7 is 13. And in 2026, we have 3 Friday the 13ths, with 2 of them back to back. One of them just occurred on February 13th. And then we have another one next month in March 13th, Friday the 13th. This means we have the first back-to-back Friday the 13th dates since 2015, and a sequence that could only actually happen in February and March, and it pops up around every 6 to 11 years. So this is definitely worth bringing up since it's making this year unique when considering that nuance, especially since the first Friday the 13th happened right before that total solar eclipse, and the second Friday the 13th happens right after the total lunar eclipse. And we've been talking a lot about that since especially the year of the horse started on a solar eclipse. So this sounds like a ritual in the making, but still, even with that being said, it's important to protect your energy and stay focused regardless of what tricks the apex predator has up its sleeves. Now that we've broken that down, I want to go a little bit deeper to the esoteric meaning behind this and how it's tied to astrology. So here's some decoding wisdom. Always study the language you speak, which are spells, and the true meaning of the words will reveal themselves to you when you're consciously speaking them. This would be for the word Monday, for example, and how it starts with the prefix mon, mun. That's moon. So we have Monday as moon day. You'll see this pattern across many languages, by the way. We have in Spanish, lunes, then lundi, then lunedi. So now we all know about Luna, that is tied to the moon, hence lunes, etc. Now apply this gnosis to the word month, mon, just like Monday. This is month. And what many fail to realize is that year does not have 12 months. A year has 13 moons, 13 full moons with 28 days in between. That's 364, 13 times 28. And that final 365th day, again, this is going a little bit deeper, but that final day, that transition point, would be your solar return, your new year, your birthday. That would be your eclipse. Don't forget that. And in many ways, the number 13 is the code of the matrix, your physical experience here in this realm. This brings everything full circle to this year being your opportunity to reset and tap into your potential and throw out their script about how the 13 has a negative energy. We always flip their negative into our positive. This also ties back to the apex predator worshiping the moon, hence their utility of the 13 code. You have the 13 families you think rule the world, and these are the 13 families that actually rule the world. You could take your time to pause here and look at this, and then we have all of the 13s on the back of the US dollar bill, the world reserve currency. Here we could go a little bit deeper. We have 13 letters in this motto, 13 illuminated stars tied to the Illuminati, 13 arrows, 13 leaves, 13 berries, all here tied to this eagle. By the way, this is tied to Mercury. This was the essence of last year, the year of the snake, because Mercury is tied to that directly. Go watch that year of the snake Decoded. And then over here, we even have 13 layers of bricks tied to the 13 original colonies. And there's many other examples of this number 13 here with this dollar bill. We'll also talk a little bit more about this as we continue, but I want to go a little deeper into some things you might not have thought of. Here we have the 13th tarot card, which represents death, the Grim Reaper, whom is Saturn riding the pale white horse. So we have the horse symbolism here on the 13th tarot card. And right there in the background, you have the 2 towers and the rising sun. And then over here, you have the 19th tarot card, the sun, which also shows a child riding a white horse. So we have horse symbolism again on both of these cards. And then with this sun symbolism, of course, we have the fact that we just had a solar eclipse kick off this year of the horse. It's powerful. Now, the sun corresponds to this Tippereth on the tree of life, this path, if you will. And it's in the 6th position. And this is something I want to quickly go through. Since we're moving from the year of the snake, which is the 6 into the year of the horse, which is 7. 6 plus 7 is 13. We're moving from the 6th to the 7th, which is symbolically moving from order to chaos, leaving behind the perfect balance of the sun and entering the emotional, chaotic, and instinctual world of Venus, leaving stability and comfort to enter the powerful tides. And this concept of instinct now returns again. So you're seeing a theme here that's very much tied to the horse energy. So this aligns perfectly. But since we're now bringing in this layer of the tree of life, we can't overlook this 10th path, which is the kingdom at the bottom. Since 2026, 2 plus 2 plus 6 equals 10. The kingdom represents the physical world, the earth, and the final grounding of all energy into reality. And utilizing the rules of numerology, this 10 becomes 1, which is the top, the crown, representing the infinite source, pure potential, and the singular point of the divine will that creation begins from. So that's huge right there. I know I said it a little quickly, but the singular point of divine will before creation begins. Powerful. Meaning, although this year might be quote unquote uncomfortable due to the rapid changes we'll experience, as long as you follow your heart tied to this Venus connection and follow your intuition, you'll be able to navigate this year with clarity and resilience. To thrive in 2026, adapt honorably and build your kingdom. Avoid the static, tap into pure signal. This is your year to break old patterns and script a new outcome. You could pause here, look a little bit more at these positive tarot cards we have tied to the numbers that we've been going through. But we have over here the 6 of Wands, got some fire horse symbolism tied to completion, success, and victory. And then as we're in this year of 26, we got the 26th card in the tarot deck, the 4 of Wands. Again, both of those tied to fire symbolism, by the way. So it's direct to this year. Funny enough, 26th card also tied to fire, but that is all about completion, harmony, and new beginnings. So very much reset and new beginnings energy for this year, 2026. This is all very positive in my opinion. So the year of 2026 and the Hebrew year 5786, we have 5 plus 7 plus 8 plus 6, again 26, and some of you might have already connected the dots here, but 13 twice, or 13 plus 13 is 26. And we have a regular deck of cards with 52 cards. You divide that by 2, you have 26, and then you have 13 hearts and 13 diamonds makes up the 26 red cards, and then you have 13 spades and 13 clubs making up the 26 black cards. So this is again tied back to gambling as well, right? You have to consider that theme. So if you're hearing about people talking about gambling this year, you know exactly why. Now, moving over to this 2026 concept, it really to me represents an opportunity to reset and rebalance. One of my favorite quotes, whether you like him or not, from Ye, he says, "I didn't play the cards I was dealt, I changed the cards." Now, let's recapitulate. We have this 666 equaling 18, everything tied to the gematria of this word high, and going to break it down a little bit more how it's one mother, one life is 18, one father, one life is 18, together makes the child. That is the real Trinity, mother, father, child. This makes 3 6s, 36, 666. And if you haven't heard of Moltbook yet, get ready for this, because this is just hitting my desk recently, and I'm glad that I started looking into it before I made today's decode. Moltbook is a social media website similar to Reddit that is designed for AI bots to talk to each other, while humans are only allowed to watch. Before we go any deeper, just want to show you how this concept I brought up earlier, the AI God, is 36 in gematria. Again, 36 is 3 6s is 666, and you have Moltbook in the most powerful cipher, in my opinion, Chaldean cipher, giving you 36 as well. Over here, you're going to see something from Bill Ackman, very famous investor. And he says, this is frightening, curious what Elon Musk thinks. And to get into this, it's just talking about how these AI bots are using this Moltbook thing. And Elon writes back, concerning. So you could pause here and you could read that if you'd like, but I'm going to continue. So on this Reddit type platform that's designed for AI bots to talk to each other while humans are only allowed to watch, this platform has security measures in place to make sure a human cannot directly create an account. It's just wild. So the apex predator is literally showing us their grand plan of how the AI god is born. This is the start, and it smells like the singularity event is right around the corner. So before we get into how Hollywood is predictively programming us for that event, first let's quickly dive into the symbolism of Moltbook and Open Claw and just overall agentic AI, since that is a big theme here in 2026. So notice how Moltbook and Open Claw, they use the lobster as their icon. And again, lobster tied back to sea symbolism, right? So this ties back to Neptune and Poseidon, and it brings everything we've covered full circle again, back to the transition phase between the ages that we're in now. As I hinted to earlier, expect the apex predator to really ramp up their use of these water, ocean, sea symbols over the coming years. But please never forget the reason why they are doing this. And it's because it's a flex. And I'll explain exactly why. This is a little deep, and this might bother some people, so please know, truth sucks, the truth sets you free. Poseidon was worshipped as Poseidon Hippios, which means Poseidon of horses, and Neptune and Poseidon symbolism combined together, the sea and the horse. As you might be aware if you're aware of mythology, the horses that pulled Poseidon's chariot were half horse, half fish. Seahorse, which is hippocampus. It's a part of the brain, part of the limbic system. So Neptune's chariot was actually pulled by these creatures called hippocampi. The hippocampus within the brain is responsible for, let's just make it simple by saying memories, but it's responsible for long-term memories, converting short-term into long-term, spatial navigation, and learning. So just think learning and memories and being able to navigate. So the use of digital navigation, such as like maps on your mobile device, and just the utility of AI that most people are using it for, has been proven in the short amount of time that it's existed. It's been proven to shrink the hippocampus, causing a notable reduction in pattern recognition, which is arguably the most important skill to have in any era. So whether that was 100 years ago or a year ago, pattern recognition is the most valuable tool for any use case for being alive. And that goes to everything from back in the day with being able to recognize seasons to determine harvest, which you need food to live and you need safety of shelter to live. That was a big part of pattern recognition, as well as being a nomad, leaving your environment to go to a new environment, understanding the patterns along the way, and everything that comes up to this very moment today. Even a big part of my personal skill set is pattern recognition, hence how we landed here. We're effectively focusing on the patterns. So this is to say that we are losing that ability naturally because of the way we're taught and the way our culture is designed. And then you add digital navigation and the use of artificial intelligence, chatbots, interacting with AI, as well as agentic AI, and it is shrinking that very thing in your brain that's responsible for that. Now, without our devices showing us digital maps and navigation, we are lost at sea. Now, I know some Admiralty Maritime Commerce Law people are going to comment about this. I'm not speaking on that, even though that is an element here. Just make sure we stay focused because we can go in a lot of different directions. Here we have the hippocampus, we have the seahorse. It is named after that. So coming back to why this will probably get worse, I mean, I know it will, unfortunately, is because humans trade convenience over almost anything, and that obsession with convenience will welcome this singularity event, and Hollywood has never hid how the world would be after that event. They've been showing us year by year, going all the way back to this very famous movie, The Terminator, which was released in 1984. And before we go here, I just quickly want to read this, which is on the movie cover itself. It says, "The year of darkness, 2029, the rulers of this planet devised the ultimate plan. They would reshape the future by changing the past." So we have this Back to the Future vibe, right? Time travel vibe. "The plan required something that felt no pity, no pain." And that's the Terminator, but they're giving you the year. So getting to what this movie is all about, many of you have probably seen this. It's one of the most famous movies ever, but many haven't seen it for some time and they forget these nuances. So to quickly recap, the Terminator is a humanoid robot that's been sent back in time from the year 2029 to the year 1984 to assassinate this character, Sarah Connor, who's yet to have her future son, John Connor, whom will someday save mankind from extinction by something called Skynet, which is a hostile artificial intelligence in a post-apocalyptic future. Note, 1984 was not only the year of release, but it was also when the movie takes place. And then this ties back to the famous book, 1984 by George Orwell. Some of you might know the popular Apple commercial that was a huge campaign about going into 1984 and how if you chose IBM, you would be like basically bringing the 1984 novel into our reality, and by going with Apple, you wouldn't. And I find that very funny considering Apple is tied back to the story in Genesis, etc., etc. But you know, Steve Jobs knew what he was doing. He's one of them. But staying on track here, the novel 1984 is a dystopian book based on a future where the freedom of an individual is subjugated to the conformity of society through surveillance, propaganda, and thought control under Big Brother. That's literally our world today. So it's not a coincidence for Hollywood to push this future vision into the minds of the public back in 1984, just like it's not a coincidence for them to use the same actor who played Sarah Connor in The Terminator to also play Dr. K in the final season of Stranger Things. And they also used an actor in season 3 that looks exactly like the Terminator. His name was Gregory. Identical. The way he dressed, the way he moved, the way he talked, the way his haircut was, everything was the same. And he came in 2 seasons before this actress, Linda Hamilton, played the role of Dr. K. Unbelievable. So the Stranger Things series begins less than 2 months before the year 1984, and honestly, the whole concept behind this is tied to the Montauk Project, which Stranger Things is based on, and that was the same year that project started. That transition between 83 to 84. So that ties perfectly back to this George Orwell 1984 and The Terminator. Now, here you have some more little goodies regarding the Montauk Project. And over to the left, we have Dr. Brenner, whose first name is Martin, like we talked about March, and the mare and horse, mare, etc., etc. So we have this mar right there. M is what you want to keep in mind. Then we have Dr. K. So 11, which is the towers or the pillars, Yakin and Boaz, she starts her life with Dr. M and ends it with Dr. K. This is MK Ultra. And even this character here, Hopper, finishes off the whole series with his famous final words, "Montauk's looking for a new chief of police." They had to say it. And in this fictional town Stranger Things takes place in is called Hawkins. This year was the season finale of that show on New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2025, during the Year of the Snake, that the Seahawks win the Super Bowl. The team arguably from one of the most liberal cities in the United States Seattle, Washington, and the Stranger Things final season had a lot of like woke vibes. This was done intentionally to program everyone with the Aquarian essence. Ending the show on that note was absolutely a humiliation ritual for both the actors and the viewers. And Hollywood needed to do this because we're moving from the year of the wood snake into the fire horse. Wood. And that's why they lit up LA last year with those fires to kick off the year of the snake. Hollywood is burning. They even made Holly Wheeler a main character in the final season and dressed her like a mixture between Little Red Riding Hood meets Alice in Wonderland. And that's a whole other rabbit hole we could dive into, but we won't today. Maybe no pun intended. I'm not sure. The apex predator is preparing us for AI Hollywood by destroying all these shows and movies with woke propaganda, demoralizing humanity, desensitizing humanity, and then this AI agenda will destroy humanity's taste, its style, the unique individual perspective we once had in art and culture. And what really solidifies my decode for this 2029 year and puts even more emphasis on the importance of this year here in 2026 is this gem that I discovered with what is arguably the most popular series since the Game of Thrones, which is this show Stranger Things that we've been decoding. And the fact that this was released on July 15th in 2016 during the year of the fire monkey, during the year of the monkey. And this show was produced by Monkey Massacre Productions, which is the Duffer Brothers. And the next year of the monkey will be 2028 leading into 2029. And that is the next Shemitah year. Perfectly aligned with everything we just covered. And if that isn't mind-blowing enough for you, the next total lunar eclipse that starts our next lunar cycle on January 1st, 2029 will be exactly 36 months from the season finale of Stranger Things, from the last episode releasing. The 36 code tied to AI God in Gematria, 3 6s, 666, and that specific eclipse will be in the year of the monkey. During the next Shemitah, leading into the year the Terminator comes from, 2029. 1984 is our reality, Stranger Things is a documentary, and The Terminator is a leak of their script. The masses have already been extremely MK Ultra programmed with the TV that tells lies to your vision, and with 2 decades of social media use, while simultaneously being hypnotized by endless devices, then you throw AI-generated content into the mix, people don't even know it's real anymore. Now you can see where this is going. They are clearly hinting at something big for 2029. And I believe I know precisely why. The next phase of their agenda starts here in the year of the fire horse. We have in the same cipher the word fire and the word horse, giving you the 29 code. And as you're already aware, the year 2029 starts with a total lunar eclipse on January 1st, 2029, and it will be the first full total lunar eclipse since the one we had in March 3rd, 2026. Therefore, 2026 will mark the end of our current lunar cycle and the next lunar cycle that starts on New Year's Day in 2029, linking these 2 years together energetically. But this isn't the only reason 2029 is significant, because what's even more significant is the fact that 2029 is the next Shemitah year, which I've said a couple times, and we're going to get into it. So for those of you who are new to this term and are hearing it for the first time when I mentioned it a little bit ago, then let's take a quick moment to explain the Shemitah, aka the sabbatical year. So Shemitah means release. The Shemitah is practiced in Judaism, known as the sabbatical year, and it occurs every 7 years, starting on the Hebrew New Year on that 7th year and ending on the following Hebrew New Year. The next Shemitah year starts at sundown on September 20th, 2028, and it ends on September 9th, 2029, making a majority of the Shemitah in the Gregorian year of 2029. Like we've been talking about with the Terminator. So note, the last Shemitah was from Rosh Hashanah 2021, so that's like around September 2021 until September 2022. And in September, 2022, there was a major market crash and bear market. The prior Shemitah 2014 to 2015 was the Chinese stock market crash, and the Asian markets crashed because of that. 7 years prior, you have 2007 to 2008, the Great Financial Crisis, the subprime mortgage crisis, or the housing market crash. 7 years before that, the dot-com bubble. 7 years before that, the Great Bond Massacre. The bond market crashed. 7 years before that, we have Black Monday, the stock market crash, and it keeps going and going. The Shemitah is key for determining when the guillotine is ready to be released. So 2029 is no joke. They're hinting at this for a reason. 2029 is the end of what I'm calling the Roaring 20s 2.0. 2029 will not only be a Shemitah year, but it will also be the 100th anniversary of the Great Crash, the Wall Street crash of 1929. Black Tuesday, which occurred exactly 1 year before a Shemitah. Take note, because we recently experienced the C19 plandemic crash, which was 1 year before a Shemitah in March 2020. This is so key. The global lockdowns were happening during the Shemitah year, the last one that we just had. The Great Depression is tied to the Shemitah in 1930. So this means we must apply a powerful decoding strategy to this upcoming Shemitah, which is utilizing what I'm calling the Trinity rule. It means the number before or the number after are to be considered just as much as the main number you're initially focusing on. So for example, you have the panic crash market reset in 2020. Then we have the peak a year later. Then we have a bear market the year after. This would be your central point, the Shemitah year. So 2029 is the end of the Roaring 20s 2.0. We already had the Roaring 20s, as you're well aware, and that led to the 1929 bubble burst and the Great Depression. So we will apply this Trinity rule to 2029, making 2028 and 2030 very important, and they should be on your radar as we wrap up what I'm calling the Roaring 20s 2.0, which started in 2020. The 20s, you have 2020, we're calling it 20s 2.0, with the C19 scamdemic, market crash, global lockdowns. That happened exactly 222 months after the 9/11 ritual on September 11, 2001, which was also a Shemitah year. Would you look at that? This happened to be 102 years after Spanish flu, which had a lot of similarities. And we can't forget the C19 tabletop exercise the apex predator called Event 201, the mirror of the 102 code. You remove that 0 from 201, you have 21. This global lockdown year of 21, the Shemitah, market top, crash, you see where this is going. Therefore, 2028 is very important with the Shemitah year. Please keep this in mind. So we're really preparing here far in advance. So the reason I'm calling this time frame we're living through right now, the Roaring 20s 2.0, is because of the relationship the masses have with investing, with speculating, and also how they spend their money on liabilities using borrowed money, particularly a lot of borrowed money versus money earned. We'll just call it credit. Lots of credit cards right now, lots of people relying on credit. Very few people have, and I don't say this to be negative, but it's just the truth. A lot of people don't have a lot of real cash available in their life. So that's a necessity for many people. That's how this whole beast system was designed at the end of the day. So what's so important to know about the 1920s is it was the first time where credit was marketed to the common man, not just for the wealthy elite. And this current behavior is happening while we have an everything bubble right now, from housing to stocks. And while this is going on, the rich are literally throwing Great Gatsby parties. So we have fire in Gematria giving you 38. 3 plus 8 gives you 11. We have horse in Gematria with 29, and 29 in fire too. 2 plus 9 equals 11. We also have 65. 6 plus 5 equals 11. This is important because 11 will not get reduced. As I said very early in today's decode, it is a master number. So we have lots of 11s connecting all this. Funny enough, we have AI bot giving you 47. 4 plus 7 equals 11, and Donald Trump is the 47th president of the United States. Reduces to 11. And since his second term, the rise of agentic AI has become prominent. We're essentially in the age of the AI bot now for the past 2 years. And he'll be president until January 20th, 2029, during the next Shemitah and the final year of the Roaring 20s 2.0. That's huge. He'll also be the president during several global events that America specifically will play a major role in. So if you feel like I'm putting a lot of emphasis on America for this decode, it's because it is the most important in this whole thing. It has a lot to do with Trump and what we're about to get into. We have this key date of July 4th, 2026, which will be the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, meaning this year marks the 250th birthday of the USA. A lot of people know this already. What you don't know most of the time is that it will also be the 250th anniversary of the formation of the Bavarian Illuminati on May 1st. That's May Day. The bottom left, you have Johann Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the Bavarian Illuminati on May Day, 1776, the same year that the United States of America formed. LOL. And we have over here the Economist magazine, World Ahead. We'll be talking a little bit about this, but you have that birthday cake right there. In that position, intentionally facing 11 o'clock. We were talking a little bit before about 11 and Stranger Things. We could go there, but one thing at a time. This is quite a decode we're going to be getting into right now. So we have 250th anniversary of Bavarian Illuminati, effectively. We call it America. Whatever. Now, this is a continuation of that decode for the world ahead of 2026, this Economist magazine cover that a lot of people have been wanting me to take a look at. We have the 250 right there on the cake. You're going to have also removing the 0 in the rules of numerology, you reduce to 25. And September 11, 2026 this year happens to be the 25th anniversary of the 9/11 ritual, the World Trade Center attacks. And the reason this is significant this year more than any other is because it will be the Hebrew New Year. The Hebrew New Year begins on September 11th this year. Consider the 9/11 ritual happened on Donald Trump's home turf. He was born in New York City, and that also happens to be the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. In New York City, there's double the population of Jewish people than that of Jerusalem. Therefore, if Rosh Hashanah lands on September 11th, we should not be shocked if there's a Rosh Hashanah event this year, or at least around that time frame. Remember a little bit ago, I brought up the concept of the other New Year for those people over there in Australia, New Zealand, tied to, you get where I'm going? Keep this stuff in mind. These New Years are big. And of course, you could bring in additional elements, but we're trying to simplify here. So this Chinese lunar month of the horse will be a brand new element that I don't think I've ever brought in before. It's something I started focusing more on now since the way last year went in the year of the snake with the snake lunar month. So here we are. We have this additional element that I believe will be very powerful for the rest of this decode, which is the month associated with the symbol, with the horse. And we're in, of course, the year of the horse, hence why I'm doing this. Now we have that starts on June 5th through July 7th. This means the 250th anniversary of the United States lands in the horse lunar month. Note, the Declaration of Independence signed on the 4th of July in 1776. It was during the year of the monkey. Remember we talked about a little bit ago. So this ties everything together for 2028 with the 4th of July, 2028, in the next year of the monkey being the 252nd birthday of the US. Now you have the palindrome of the number 25, forwards and backwards. 25 is 2 5s, 5 plus 5 is 10. That is the reset number. Again, making from this year, 2026, the year that reduces to 10, equally important in how this will go over the next 3 to 4 years. So this is very much the launch pad for all of what will be, in my opinion, the launch of the Aquarian economy. And this man has a lot to do with that. Considering his first couple of days of being president, he comes out and says the US will be the crypto capital and AI capital of the world, the two most transformative and disruptive technologies we have. So this is all word spells, it's all magic, and we're watching it unfold in front of our eyes. Now, what's so fascinating about all of this, with July 4th in 2028 and tied to the anniversary of the USA, is the opening ceremony of the Summer Olympics, which will be hosted in Los Angeles, California, in the United States of America. Again, this is why I'm putting a lot of attention into the US for the next couple of years, because it's all these big events are happening here. Note, August 15th, 2028, Donald Trump will officially be the quote-unquote oldest US president in office, a record that was currently held by Joe Biden, who left office at 82 years and 61 days. And August 15, 2028 happens to be 33 days from the opening ceremony of the 2028 Olympics. And August 15th is the day leaving 138 days left in the year. So on that day, it ties directly to the gematria of Donald Trump's name, 138. And for those of you out there that know a lot about decoding, the number under that, 137, is the 33rd prime number. So this all leads into that date no matter how you slice it. So consider that we're in the year of the fire horse. And one of the things we're seeing here in the world ahead 2026 is melted ice cube, melted ice. ICE stands for United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement. ICE was created as part of Homeland Security Act in 2002, which, by the way, that's 22, the master number. Horse in gematria also equals 22, by the way. But continuing this, following the September 11th attack is when they came out with this. That is key, because what have I been saying this whole time? We have the 25th anniversary of the 9/11 ritual happening right after we have the 250th anniversary of the U.S. independence, which lands in the year of the horse during the horse lunar month. So since this is the year of the fire horse, we all know fire melts ice. And with the ice raids being a theme lately, I believe the melting of the ice here in the fire horse year will be a climactic event involving ICE agents and the American people that will unfortunately not go so well. What's important to mention here before we move forward is I am not calling for a civil war, but the Civil War movie that came out in 2024, which was about America going into a civil war, was not subtle at all. And you already know my take on Hollywood and the burning of the Hollywood. So we have this Civil War movie cover showing you New York City. And we went a little bit into this last year with the Leave the World Behind movie. That was also interesting. So we have this here in New York City. We have a close-up of the torch that is held by Lady Liberty, the Statue of Liberty. You have fire symbolism right there in our face. They released this movie on the 163rd anniversary of the American Civil War, which was on April 12th, 1861, according to the narrative. And 163 is the 38th prime number. And fire horse in our most powerful Chaldean cipher equals 38. We also have 1 plus 6 plus 3 equals 10, and the year 2 plus 2 plus 6 equals 10. But what we also need to consider is this. 1861, the year of the American Civil War, was the year of the rooster. Also, April 12th, 1861 was a Shemitah year. And from February 13th, 2029 until September 11th, 2029, that time frame will be both the year of the rooster and a Shemitah year. So that's not focusing on this year. That's focusing on 2029 again. Notice how the Shemitah also ends on September 11th again, tied to New York City, USA. The 9/11 ritual again happened during a Shemitah year, so everything points to 2029, guys. In this movie, Civil War appears to take place in the springtime, which is March, April, May. That's me going a little deeper in the decode, but that would be Aries, March 21st through April 19th, and tropical in April 14th through May 14th in sidereal. And Aries is ruled by Mars, the god of war, cardinal fire. So that's huge. Now, as I said, we have several big events tied to the United States that are global events, and one of them being this year with the FIFA World Cup. It will take place from June 11th to July 19th, which also happens to be during the Chinese lunar month of the horse. Perfect. This World Cup will take place in Canada, Mexico, and the United States of America, and this will be the first World Cup hosted by 3 nations. So this is very Aquarian. This is getting rid of borders. This is getting rid of identity, guys. You have to see what this is all about. It actually, just a side note, it reminds me of the Amero. It was like a hypothetical common currency proposed for North America between the nations of the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And it's kind of similar to how the euro works over there in Europe. But why it's so important for America specifically is because 16 cities will be involved in this World Cup, and out of the 16, 11 of them will be in the USA. So this definitely puts more emphasis on the US as the host of the Olympic Games overall. So definitely consider this when it comes to potential chaotic events tied to the USA and everything we covered in this decode, especially since the World Cup brings a lot of tourism. So that could get in the way of travel in a lot of ways. We've been talking a lot about Aquarius. That's air, planes, drones. Keep all that in mind. Now, 26 is the key number of this year, 26, and the horse lunar month, June 5th through July 7th, actually includes the 26th week of this year, which is June 22nd through June 28th. And to the left, you'll see I'm throwing in an additional layer to this decode, adding in the 26th element, which is iron, which has an atomic mass of 55, just like Satoshi Nakamoto in Gematria equals 55 in multiple ciphers. And I'm bringing this up obviously because we focus a lot on crypto here, but also we're in Satoshi's Jubilee with an official end of April 5th, 2026. That's the day this mythological archetype officially turns 51 years old. Now, to go a little deeper here, the Bitcoin white paper was published on October 31st, 2008. That's Halloween. Think about that. Before we were talking about Purim, Jewish Halloween, and the network, the Bitcoin network, officially launched on January 3rd, 2009, which is the Genesis block. You've probably all heard about this, meaning Bitcoin was created in the year of the rat. And that's crucial to note that the first ever recorded price of Bitcoin was on March 17th in 2010 in the year of the tiger. So even though Bitcoin is tied to the rat year, it wasn't until 2010 that it actually was used as a quote-unquote peer-to-peer electronic cash system, as the white paper suggests. So that's worth mentioning, especially for those people that have been into utilizing Chinese zodiac in your decoding. Note, from the mining of the Genesis block, Bitcoin is currently 17 years old. You reduce 17, you get 8. Just like 26 becomes 8, tied to this year. So 8, for those who want to know more about the numbers and what they are symbolic of, 8 is symbolic of balance and renewal. Also, 8 doesn't close, doesn't release in that way that it's stuck. For example, with a 2, you have a end and a start to the symbol. An 8, you're trapped in it. All right. So 8 is the infinity sign. It never ends. That energy is always flowing. I said stuck before, but really what I mean is it's trapped in that symbol. It doesn't have a top and a bottom. It doesn't have a entry and an exit. It is all one, like a 0, for example. So the symbol 8 is symmetrical, and the sun and the moon form a figure 8 in the sky called an analemma, making this number 8 representing the full completion of cycles. So keep that in mind for this particular year that we're in. While 7 represents the completion of a linear cycle, like the 7 days of the week or the 7 notes of a scale, 8 represents the dynamic completion of a cycle that immediately regenerates itself. So we must consider this when determining what's next for Bitcoin and the crypto market and how this specific year of the fire horse ties into the full picture. So since I've been calling from April 5th, 2025 last year to April 5th, 2026 this year, Satoshi's Jubilee, which is the 50th year, which by the way we get to that number is a Jubilee is 7 cycles of 7 years, 7 cycles of 7 Shemitah. And then on the following year, the 50th year, you practice what is called Jubilee. So I hope that helps for those who have not heard about this. So that means after April 5th this year, we'll be moving on from this energy and completing that cycle. And it's clear to me that the Apex Predator used Satoshi's Jubilee to give us one of the most elusive crypto bull run cycles that we've experienced to date, with no true alt season coming along for the ride. And the fact that it was Satoshi's 50th year could very well be the reason. Just like during the biblical Jubilee from Rosh Hashanah in 2022 until September 17, 2023 to be specific, from that moment forward, the entire market recovered from the previous bear market. It was absolutely crazy to see how after we went through the Jubilee, we had a notable pivot after October 7th in Israel. That event was the trigger point. I do remember this myself because I was buying gold as it was selling off all throughout that weekend leading into October 7th. I had no idea the event would happen on October 7th, but I had some intuitive thing going on where I was telling myself, I think this is the time to build a gold position. And it was wild. I even had a Red Pill podcast dedicated to that, revealing that information with the community. And it turned out to be an unbelievable play. So October 7th only happened because the Jubilee was over. And during Jubilee, you can't, and I know this sounds dark, but go study it yourself. But during Jubilee, slaves actually get freed and land that was confiscated gets given back. And it's like a time where roles shift. Power gets put on the sidelines almost. And people that are not so fortunate get to shine in that way. And they do manipulate markets the way they do, and they make it difficult for humanity, of course, but they don't do the real bad stuff during Jubilee. And that's why once it was over, they did the October 7th thing. And since October 7, 2023, Israel has been the talk of the town all the time. And now they're looked at as the bad guys. So think about this. Now, for crypto, it became noticeable after October 14th, 2023, which was an annular solar eclipse. We got a pivot immediately. So go look at the gold chart after October 7, 2023. Then go look at most altcoin charts after October 14th, 2023. It will blow your mind. Now, this could very well be our setup for the upcoming August 12th total solar eclipse this year in 2026. Keep that in mind. So that brings us back to this earlier part of the decode. I said since we'll be leaving the lunar cycle energy fully in Q3 2026, then it's likely we'll be seeing a macro bottoming structure forming for the crypto market in accordance with the eclipse seasons here in 2026. And now I want to talk about this August 2026 eclipse season, which has a total solar eclipse and then a partial lunar eclipse to follow. So as mentioned earlier in this decode, March 3rd, 2026, the total lunar eclipse will be the last full total lunar eclipse until New Year's Day in 2029, meaning the upcoming total solar eclipse in August will be in isolation, and it will happen before the partial lunar eclipse in late August. So these nuances are crucial because it's what determines solar or lunar energy dominance during an eclipse season. To simplify this, the eclipse that comes first in the sequence matters, and the total eclipses are more important than partial eclipses. Simply put, the upcoming eclipse season in August is ruled by the solar eclipse, and this should be the trigger point of the start of our next solar cycle. Now, let me show you what happens between the end of a lunar cycle and the start of a solar cycle with this Bitcoin chart example, and then you can take what you're learning here and apply it to any other altcoins that you're interested in. We will talk a little bit about the 2014 market in a moment because that was the cycle that is tied to the last year of the horse. But for now, we want to focus on what I think actually matters more than that, which is the end of a lunar cycle moving into the start of a solar cycle. So you can pause here and you could read each of these independently, but come back to this because we're going to be breaking this down holistically. As you can see, based on all the past Bitcoin bear markets, we have a bottom that happens around the final total lunar eclipse of a lunar cycle, with a tendency to bottom before the final lunar eclipse, with our last cycle being a crash on the day of the actual lunar eclipse itself. That was the really famous FTX crash that happened in the November lunar eclipse in 2022. And that black swan event actually effectively marked the bottom for not only Bitcoin, but a majority of the crypto markets. So please keep this in mind for March 3rd, 2026, especially if you're watching before that date, until around March 16th, 2026. And since that's about how long it took Bitcoin to develop a confirmed bottoming structure in the last cycle before recovering into the upcoming solar cycle, which you'll actually see in every example where we're bottoming on that final lunar eclipse, we're recovering into the following solar cycle, bottoming on the final total lunar eclipse, recovering into the solar cycle, bottoming on the final eclipse, recovering into the solar cycle, bottoming on the final eclipse, recovering into the solar cycle, and we are looking very bearish right now in our current cycle in 2026. Will we be bottoming around this time frame? Well, it does feel like it's a possibility considering the data is on our side. And the idea of recovery into the upcoming solar cycle, it doesn't necessarily need to be the same as it always is. Nothing needs to be the same, but it is pretty amazing that we have 4 complete cycles going back over a decade that shows us this pattern, whether Bitcoin was trading under $5 or even recently with 100,000. So we have a current bottom as of right now that is to be determined, but the current bottom that we have as of today, which I'm filming around February 17th, 18th, which happened on February 6th in 2026. This is so important for us to break down, but we'll get to that in a moment. So this is why March is so important this year. It ties us back to this section of the decode I mentioned, the significance of March 14th through March 17th. I said, watch out for the Ides of March, which is the exoteric assassination of Julius Caesar on March 15th. But I believe the real importance here is in sidereal astrology. The sun is moving into Pisces on March 15th in the actual sky. And then we have the eve of that date, which is Pi Day, March 14th, when the year comes around full circle, and then keep those dates on your radar for a significant event. So we have over here to the left, the theme of how Bitcoin ends a lunar cycle. And since we've had Bitcoin bottom 4 to 6 weeks before the final lunar eclipse of the lunar cycle, in 3 out of 4 of our lunar cycles. So that's 3 out of 4 of our bear markets. And by the way, every bear market is during a lunar cycle. That's very important. I should have mentioned that a little bit earlier. That means Bitcoin's current bottom on the date of February 6th is not far off from past cycles. It would actually fit perfectly, since it's 25 days before the final total lunar eclipse on March 3rd, 2026. And if February 6th, the 2/6 date, were to end up being the official bottom, then it would fit perfectly with this year of the horse decoded. And before I break down why that's the case, first I need to say this. Disclaimer. Please do not take this as me calling the bottom on this Bitcoin bear market. We have a lot that could unfold in the next couple weeks, so there's many variables to consider when doing that. And since this decode is being released before March 3rd, total lunar eclipse, that means we still need to entertain a repeat of what happened in the last lunar cycle in November 2022, where we had a lunar eclipse crash. That's very much in the cards still here in 2026 on March 3rd. So that's the reason why I've been putting emphasis on March 14th through 17th throughout this decode. And at the end of the day, there's definitely and always a possibility that this cycle we're in now is where the pattern breaks. As I say, anything is possible in the matrix, and we can't just go quote unquote all in on this data point. So this is by no means investment advice. As I mentioned at the disclaimer in the beginning of this decode, you must develop your own investment thesis accordingly based on your financial situation. And with that being said, here's the reason why the correction Bitcoin had into February 6, 2026 is so perfect by the code. Starting with the obvious, the fact that this date is the key number of the year, 26, the 26 code. In the year 26, within the Hebrew year 5786, which reduces to 26, and the day before this was actually the lowest daily close so far, and that connects to March 3rd, the total lunar eclipse date, by 26 days. And March 3rd just so happens to be the mirror number of 26 because it's the 62nd day of the year, which would be how the date February 6th is actually written around the world. It's quite common to write the day first, the month after. And if that's not enough for you, Bitcoin hit a low price of $62,000 on that day, and it also closed that daily candle within 62K. It couldn't be any more perfect. Just how back on April 7th in 2025, during World War Tariff, Bitcoin hit a low of 74K on the 7/4 date, written internationally, April 7th. It's the lowest it went for the rest of the year. And the stock market crashed perfectly into that date after topping out 47 days prior. You could go look this up for yourself. Of course, this is all tied back to Trump being the 47th president, and then the 47th element on the periodic table is silver, and we just had silver break out into price discovery, mimicking the move that it did 47 years ago. So this is why it's possible for all the stars to align for the recent lows on February 6, 2026 for Bitcoin with this 26 code. And here's a chart to show you something else to consider for the current market that we're dealing with. Right over here, this is the Bitcoin weekly chart, and it's going back to the 2018 cycle where we had this parabolic advance, major bear market. It also includes the 2022 cycle all the way up until now. So this is quite a bit of data. And at the top, you're going to see the RSI indicator. It's the relative strength index, which has a red dotted line going across the top at 27. By the way, anything below 30 is considered oversold. And we're looking at a weekly chart. This is not a daily. So this data is very important. Now you'll see the past two times that we got down to this red dotted line was the bottom of the last two bear markets, tied to where we are as we speak. Note, at the time of recording this, the weekly RSI sits around 27.8, so let's call it around 28, and this could of course go lower in the weeks to come, especially with the March 3rd eclipse ahead. But it's also worth mentioning that the bottom in 2015 over here, we had an RSI read of 28.2, and then in December of 2018, we had 28.8. So we're right there here in 2026. And the lowest it went in June of 2022 over here, it was 25.2. And that marks the lowest weekly RSI ever for Bitcoin. So we can't forget that this event over here happened during the Terra Luna crash. And why I bring it up is because most of you don't even invest in Bitcoin. You actually probably tend to invest in altcoins. And this was the bottom for ETH, Doge, and XRP. And we're going to be showing a couple of those charts in a moment. But that's very significant to bring up, that on this time where Bitcoin's RSI got down to this territory, a lot of altcoins were bottoming in the bear market. So that could mean that some of the altcoins right now could be bottoming now, even if Bitcoin were to trade lower. So that's very positive to hear. And to clear that up, what I mean by that is just based on how the last bear market went. So if Bitcoin was in fact to break lower into, let's say, the 50K territory, which is absolutely in the cards, that it would happen likely sooner than later in alignment with the eclipse season closer to the March 3rd total lunar eclipse. And it could also mean that a lot of altcoins might not follow it lower. Just food for thought. Now, before we go any further, I want to entertain a possible scenario that could be in play for later this year in 2026. And here's where I'll clear up what I mentioned earlier when I said during 2026, we'll likely see a notable relief rally for crypto tied to eclipse seasons. And we have over here this specific lunar cycle ending in 2019, where in 2019, we only had 3 full total lunar eclipses, which matches this time around in 2026. Usually we get 4 total lunar eclipses. This time we're getting 3, which matches the 2019 bear market. And this could very well be important for this cycle that we're in now, since you'll see how Bitcoin recovered from the bottom perfectly into the following solar cycle. The solar eclipse on July 2nd, 2019, it looked like a J recovery. So by the way, during this cycle, Bitcoin had an all-time high previously at like 19,000. It came all the way up to like 14,000 on the recovery after losing 80-something% of its value. So this was an unbelievable recovery. And I'm definitely looking for something like this if the market maker is going to throw us a curveball. So one thing that's interesting is it all started 18 days or so after the total lunar eclipse, which would align with March 20th to March 21st for us this year. So you could write that date down, could be significant. And this is the main reason why I teach to expect a bottoming structure forming around 2 to 3 weeks after a total lunar eclipse. Puts us into around March 23rd. And at this point, we're just dialing in everything more and more. So consider the end of March if you want to stay flexible and not pull your hair out. So that would give us around till the first week of April to be on our radar for a bounce, which would be similar in the setup to last year following Trump's Liberation Day on April 2nd. And then the bottom we had on April 7th through 9th. And then we bounced from there. May and June, we rallied and many altcoins pumped noticeably into July. Some of them hit new yearly highs and some even extended higher into August. I believe ETH was one of them. So this scenario aligns not only with last year in 2015, but it also perfectly aligns with the 2019 recovery from the final lunar eclipse of that lunar cycle. And the fact that we have a total solar eclipse in isolation in August makes this even more of an opportunity. So this is such a similar setup to 2019, it can't be ignored. But we can't forget to mention what happened after that solar eclipse. That J recovery that we had into the solar eclipse marked the exact top before Bitcoin went to correct all the way back to almost the bear market bottom. Eventually, we had the C19 crash in March the following year, which is why I would be cautious with this August eclipse season here in 2026, due to the fact that we've seen this hopium rally / bull trap scenario happen before. So in conclusion, if Bitcoin is to rally noticeably into a nearly full recovery, getting back over 100K, it would be potentially wise to de-risk, especially if your personal financial situation requires you to. There's no point in being a hero right now in this economic environment that we're in. Remember, the year of the fire horse represents intensity, rebellion, fame, which is that hero energy, by the way, and of course, volatility. And you want to manage risk this year, especially when it comes to speculative investing. And you heard my thoughts earlier about gambling. Don't gamble this year. So in the event that we do have this J recovery in 2026, unless we get hit with a black swan event next year in 2027, like we did, for example, in 2020, which by the way is in the cards, we'll cover that in depth in the year of the goat Decoded next year. And for now, if we take everything that we've covered in the past Bitcoin solar cycles, then the following eclipse season in August 2026 could create another buying opportunity later in this year. And that would align with the important fact that Rosh Hashanah lands on September 11th this year. the 25th anniversary of that event in the 250th year of the United States. You're going to see right here these connections. So let's go ahead and mark our calendars for the 37th into the 38th weeks of this year as significant dates, since that's the week of Rosh Hashanah. September 20th through September 11th, the Rosh Hashanah dates, all the way up till September 20th, because we have this 38 showing up in the gematria of the word fire horse. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Then we have both of the key words, fire and horse, matching in 3 out of 4 of the base ciphers. So it's like it was meant to be. We have 70 reduces to 7, which then reduces 25 to the same number. 2 plus 5 equals 7. And we're talking about being in the 7th sign, the horse. And both the 25th week as well as the 26th week run through the horse lunar month, June 5th through July 7th. But we can actually extend this until July 29th for this gematria decode, especially since that runs through the July new moon, which was significant last year. And there's been similarities also with this and 2020. So it was that exact new moon, July of last year, the July new moon, where we topped during that J recovery back in 2019 as well. So Bitcoin really likes July, and if Bitcoin recovers, we see what that does for alts. So this really solidifies the importance of this month of July leading into the August eclipse season, with the fact that it will be the horse lunar month in the horse year. Now, we have Bitcoin and XRP during the last year of the horse in 2014, since those who are aware of the Chinese zodiac typically pay attention to what is called the enemy sign. It's taught that, quote, because Bitcoin was created in the rat year and the horse is the enemy of the rat, since also the last year of the horse in 2014 was a major crash for Bitcoin, dropping 80% or more in that year, that we need to repeat the same exact move, and we should expect this same event to turn out like it did back then in 2014, the last year of the horse. So although I cannot deny that 2014 was an absolute bloodbath for crypto, I still feel it's important to mention 2 key factors for determining the differences of where we're at here in 2026 versus 2014, starting with the first. We've already experienced 2 full total lunar eclipses last year in 2025, and we're about to have our 3rd and final total lunar eclipse on March 3rd, 2026 very soon. This aligns with the total lunar eclipse in April 2015, and we're talking about 2014 year of the horse. So what that means in plain English is that we're essentially further along in the lunar cycle than where we were in 2014, and our relationship to the euphoric top of this current cycle puts us in a similar position to where we are usually at by the 3rd total lunar eclipse in a lunar cycle, based off of all the past cycles, including this one in the last year of the horse. It's worth considering. Now, our euphoric top that we've experienced in this cycle was leading into Donald Trump's inauguration in January 2025, with many altcoins topping in Q4 2024. So it's now been well over 400 days of downtrend for altcoins. A lot of them are incredibly oversold, and that's the second key factor in this comparison between 2026 and 2014. For the few alts that were around in 2013, which there were very few, they all had an epic move up to finish the cycle. Well, we haven't seen a move like this in crypto since Q4 2024, which was initiated 500 days ago. Considering that Bitcoin took around 415 days to bottom in the 2015 bottom compared to the 2013 euphoric top, that would mean we're pretty much at the same exact place as we record this decode regarding the timing, because we're around 420 days right now. So that's of course worth considering in our overall analysis, measuring from euphoric top to bottom, not just from a high price. Because remember, the prices are very manipulated by leverage, and there's a lot of leverage exchanges, and there's more leverage exchanges every new cycle. So a lot of what pushed Bitcoin up that couple of more dollars is just leverage. It's paper Bitcoin. It's the same thing that pushed a lot of stuff up in July, August into new highs. So that's, of course, worth considering in our overall analysis. Just consider the sentiment, which is what affects most investors. Now, lastly, we're obviously in a much different market, in a much different economy, and a much different world than where we were in 2013 through 2015. A lot has changed over the past decade, and now that institutions are involved and regulatory clarity has become the focus for governments, this means we're shifting away from the quote wild wild west of crypto land, and we'll soon be heading into a new global financial system, what I'm calling the Aquarian economy. Here we have XRP and Doge during the last year of the horse in 2014. And what all of these charts have in common is that they all bottomed during the year of the horse. With the exception of Bitcoin bottoming at the very, very end of the year of the horse, it's still all in the year of the horse. And this is why I said earlier, 2026 is a bottoming year for crypto. Bottoming is the lowest prices, best discounts, optimal buying opportunities, and that means, of course, we have the most fear, the scariest market for crypto investors. And everything we've covered points to 2026 as an accumulation year. Again, not financial advice. It's not about going all in right now. It's about dollar cost averaging in these eclipse seasons because they always present us with these awesome prices. But don't forget this year, similar to last, it will be filled with volatility. And I stated earlier on in this decode, you'll need to tap into your intuition this year, especially if you've been avoiding it in the past. Let your intuition guide you this year with your investments and your investment thesis. And lastly, make sure to consider this. Since we're moving from the year of the wood snake into the fire horse, this did make me think of this like Trojan horse ritual. In the story of the Trojan War by Virgil, the Trojans fought against the Greeks. The Greeks were unable to breach Troy's walls by force, so they pretended to retreat and they left behind a giant wooden horse, concealing their soldiers, which the Trojans famously dragged inside of their city as a quote-unquote victory trophy, leading to their own destruction. When the Trojans found the horse, their fatal mistake initially was not burning it. They considered doing that before bringing it inside of their walls. From this mythology, we hear the famous quotes, "Beware of Greeks bearing gifts," or "Don't look a gift horse in the mouth," tied to being cautious and taking the time to inspect a gift, even if it might seem like you're being ungrateful. The wisdom here is another quote you might have heard. Never invite a vampire into your home, which I call protect your prana, protect your life force energy. This year, there's going to be a lot of distractions, a lot of Trojan horses. Protect yourself, protect your prana. Now let's do a summary of the year of the horse decoded. Year of the fire horse key numbers are 1, 7, and 8. And since 1 is our key number, this means we must also include 10, 11, and 111. Note 11 is the master number of new beginnings. 10 is the reset, the ones and zeros, the binary, the computer language. We also have the number 13 and the mirror number 31. The reason we're not getting mirror numbers up here is because they're single digits. So this is why we will always include mirror numbers when you're decoding, when you're utilizing it. It's almost like alchemy. You never mimic, you always mirror. So we have the numbers 13 and its mirror number 31. They both reduce to 4. And our key number 7 happens to be the 4th prime number. So that definitely strengthens this. Remember, we're in the 7th sign, the horse year. 13 is the 6th prime number. And 13 is also half of our next key number that we're going to talk about. Talked about this a little bit earlier with the playing cards, tied back to gambling. You know, a lot of people gamble on horses. Horse racing used to be huge. So again, it's all fitting the themes here. We also have 31 is the 11th prime number, and esoterically, you speak this number out. 3 ones, 111. Ties you right back to your key numbers. So with 11 master number this year, that's big. We also have 26 and 62. We already know about 26. Been talking about it the whole decode. We must include the mirror number 62. Both 26 and 62 naturally reduced to 8. Again, the main key number. And Neptune, creator of horses, is considered the 8th planet from the sun. So this strengthens the power of the 8 even more during this horse year in 2026. But like I said with 8, it's not giving you entries and exits, it's a loop. So you got to be careful with that 8 energy this year. That's huge. Unlike the 2 or the 1 or the 7, which has an entry and an exit, the 8 loops. It's the kind of more complex Ouroboros. You might have seen the snake eating its own tail in the figure 8 pattern. That's an esoteric symbol that we see quite a bit. And it's important because it's telling you that once you wake up, there's no going back. And it's very much that Pandora's box kind of energy. That's what the 8 is all about. So remember, 26 year reduces to 8. Then we have 29. We got to this through a lot of gematria connections. 29 and the mirror number 92, they both reduce to 11. So we're back at that master number. And 29 is the 10th prime number. So we're back at the prime number up here where we started. So putting even more emphasis on the power of the number 1 this year. 2 plus 2 plus 6 equals 10, reduces to 1. The year of the reset, which is 10, and the year of new beginnings. So you must pause, self-reflect, reset, and take charge for a new beginning. Here's some key dates for the year of the Fire Horse. We have the Chinese Lunar New Year landing in the 8th week of the year, again making this number 8 incredibly important for this entire year of the horse. Then we have from the 10th to the 13th week of the year. This is right around your total lunar eclipse on March 3rd, and it's covering your key numbers of 10 and 11 that we just talked about a moment ago, as well as 13. And I'll cover the importance regarding 13 in a moment, but this essentially makes the entire month of March the most important month of this year. So consider how March is the true first month in the system, as we spoke about earlier. This aligns with the significance of the number 1. This year, 2 plus 2 plus 6, 10 becomes 1. Now, Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries are of utter importance for those of you that are into astrology. Go into the symbols. You'll understand why. But remember, we're in the year of the Fire Horse, so before we move on, I need to reveal a specific date that lands in the sign of Aries. Aries tied to fire. This will be a warning for April 14th. It's because I'm bringing up the time frame of Aries. Of course, we need to keep in mind that Aries is the cardinal fire sign, and we're in the Fire Horse year, and when the sun moves into the sign of Aries, so the sun is symbolic of fire, moving into fire sign, we'll be experiencing a very interesting date this year of April 14th. You might hear me talk about this date in past decodes, but this is a new one because this could only happen this year. We have the Federal Reserve System was established on December 23rd of 1913, and when you connect these dates from the date that the Fed was established over to the 114th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. And I brought that up because that event is tied to the strategy of creating the Fed. If you don't know about that, go do some research. What happens is you end up with 112 years and 112 days, which ties to the element with the atomic mass of 112, which is cadmium, the 48th element. And the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is not only because it's rare to see such a connection occur over such a long time horizon, but also because the significance of the number 47, since Donald Trump has become the 47th president. We talked a lot about the 47 earlier. And this year will be the end of Jerome Powell's Fed chair term on May 15th. So perhaps this cadmium connection shows we're moving away from the negative effects tied to the number 47. We're moving on from the number 47 is another way to look at it. And look at this symbol. I showed you earlier this symbolism at the very start of the decode, and behind this symbol is the world map, red, fire. It's fascinating. So I will be decoding this more in the future, but I wanted to get this out in today's decode so that you can maybe, look a little deeper into what's to come with the Fed. But I'm going to make my assumptions here that the negative energy of the 47 might be a thing of the past and that we're moving on from it. And that we've been dealing with that all last year, all throughout the year of the snake. The snake is shedding its skin. We have March, St. Patrick's Day, the St. Patrick banishing snakes out of Ireland, etc., etc. Like, it's fascinating how this is all tied together around that time frame. And we have the 4-8 date could be of consideration. And the market was bottoming last year 4-7, 4-8, and 4-9. 4-8 was your pivot date in the center. So Powell's term ending could very well be a positive trigger, considering his last day as Fed chair is literally the day after the sun moves out of the sign of Aries in the actual sky on May 14th. Also, I believe May 15th is the original Israel Independence Date, and that's where we were talking about the symbolism earlier. So keep that in mind. The gods of war, man. Note, the reason I'm warning you about April 14th to 15th is tied to the sinking of the Titanic ritual, and how there could be an event this year tied to the Federal Reserve in Jerome Powell's final month as Fed chair, because that's exactly one calendar month before his last day. Now, we have a couple more dates to wrap this up. The horse lunar month starts on June 5th, which is your 6-5 date, exoterically. Horse in Gematria in the base cipher is 65. June 5th happens to be the day leaving 209 days left in the year. We have 29 in our code, and we even pointed that out earlier with the 29s and the connection to how we're implementing that to determine the dates. So the horse lunar month ends on July 7th, 3 days into the 250th year of the USA, and 67 days into the formation of the Bavarian Illuminati, which is tied to the 76 code. You guys probably heard of the Philadelphia 76ers and the Leave the World Behind movie. Started with the first scene. He has the 7-6 mug sitting next to his bed. He wakes up. The family leaves and goes on a little weekend getaway, taking exit 76 to get off the highway, and then it all hell breaks loose. So this connection to the 1776 year, the Philadelphia 1776 capital of the United States, all of this stuff tied to the US, this is your 6-7 connection directly to that. Unbelievable. Then we have both June 7th and July 6th are your 6-7-7-6 dates, which are both within the horse lunar month. So this 6776 code is also crucial, tied to the number 13. Remember 6 plus 7 or 7 plus 6, 13. The 13 original colonies, 13 stars in the original flag, also the 13 Illuminati bloodline. So we have the 13th week of this year is March 23rd through March 29th. That would be called our post-lunar eclipse time frame. And then we have the 31st week of the year, the mirror number, July 27th through August 2nd, leading into the last eclipse season of this year. So Gemini and Cancer are definitely important this year. We have May 21st through August 16th, considered both tropical and sidereal dates. When I'm pulling these dates together, that's when the sun moves through these two signs. It covers the 26th through the 31st weeks of the year. Remember the 26th? That's huge. So there you have it. All the key codes and dates for this year of the Fire Horse. And of course, throughout this year of 2026, we'll make sure to keep these codes on our radar, just like we did last year in 2025, in the year of the snake. Would love to hear some more of your thoughts in our community of what you guys have found for this year of the horse. We'll be creating a new text channel inside of our Discord very soon dedicated to it. And as we progress through this year, we'll focus on adapting to the energy this year embodies. Remember, following your intuition is everything this year. And if you're feeling a lack of focus or inspiration, but you know you need to take things to the next level to make your new foundation future-proof, which should be everyone's goal, and you're finally ready to make that change, then I want you to know that I've been dedicating every day over the past year to develop something that truly represents what I've been wanting to share with the world, and to bring the most value to those who resonate with my vision in every aspect, from mindset coaching to health and wellness, finance, networking, meeting new people, making new friends, dating, business creation, and even helping businesses troubleshoot their operations, and all the way up to event planning, creating and organizing events with our community from all over the world. And very soon that vision will be a reality. We have this new platform that will be launching soon, Waters Above platform and mobile app. You can learn more at watersabove.app. And this is essentially what we called Waters Above University 2.0. It's a revamp with our own platform. Everything is different from that last experience. It is unbelievable, the upgrade that we've created, and that will have a new monthly membership option launching very soon. Last year we only had an annual. We had a lot of people reaching out to do a monthly, and we will be doing that at an even lower cost. So more value, best possible thing I could have done with my resources and my time in all of 2025 leading up to now. And I'm so excited for what this will include to elevate your life, discover your people. Feel free to join the waitlist for our new platform over at watersabove.app. I have a couple other social accounts over here. Make sure you're following my real accounts and not the fake ones. And I just want to let you all know how grateful I am to be stepping into this new year, new energy with all of you. It will be the 5th year anniversary of Waters Above coming up very soon. So I'm excited to enter this new energy from this recent solar eclipse, renewed, rejuvenated, and I cannot wait to launch this new platform very, very soon. So in the meantime, enjoy this decode here, prepping all of you for the year ahead, and I will be catching you all very soon. Much love.